the one who gives and takes life, and the one who created across all the earth contains. He gave us, as I said, 7 layers of protection. And remember when we talked about the miracles of the Quran? We went through every one of them and what their purpose is. These 2 verses speak of the blessings of Allah has showered on man, and point out that men and women who do not recognize the beneficence of Allah and persist in their denial by not considering the previous verses should at least be grateful for their benefactor and realize why they should be obedient to Allah. So it's like a wake-up call. It's a tweaking of our cognitions, of our mind, to ask us, I've shown you all of these things. I've given you all the minerals, all the sources, everything you need on this earth. So how can you deny Allah? How can you not believe? How can you not have faith?
Also,
Yes.
what do you mean by 7 layers of protection? What does that mean?
The stratosphere, the mesosphere, all of those. We covered that in the miracles of the Quran.
Yes.
Yeah.
Law Mahfuz to Quran is Mahfuz in that 3rd level.
The lowest level of the heavens, first level. The blessings presented in these 2 verses refer to the blessings peculiar to man and womankind. We had no life before Allah gave us existence, and I'm going to give you the proofs for this in a minute. And this is what's so beautiful to me. We were this disgusting fluid, a billion of lifeless particles, aimlessly floating, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Creator, brought them together, made them into a human, and then gave it life. He breathed into your mother's womb His ruh, His spirit, and made it alive. So we were dead. We were just fluids. And Allah brought it to life. And Allah's going to do the same thing again. Then Allah gave us the earth and all it contains, on which that life immediately depends, and the heavens to protect it, develop it, and to be a place for our return. These verses are also a warning that Allah can take our life away and give it back a second time in a different form. Because in this form, we have limitations. Probably every single person in this room can say something they don't like about their body. But when we get to paradise, we're going to be on a dimension where that will not exist. We're going to be on a dimension where our bodies will be perfect in whatever form it is. On the day of judgment, Allah will collect lifeless scattered particles. Listen to this, folks. We were these lifeless particles. And Allah brought us together, put a heart in there, put a brain in there, and we actually came out of our mother's womb with bones and little fingers and eyes and everything. We're going to go to the grave and we're going to become particles of dust. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to pull all that together again and create us in a new body. We'll have a new life. How can you disbelieve? How can you deny and worship others after you were dead and He gave you life? Surah 52, verse 35 to 36. Were they created by nothing, or were they the creators of themselves? Or did they create the heavens and the earth? Nay, but they have no firm belief. What is this talking about? How many people have you met in the world that talk like this? And the reason you talk like this is because you don't have firm faith. You don't have firm iman. So when you meet people and they are questioning these things, these miraculous things that Allah has given us, the verse right here says they don't have firm belief. They don't have iman. Their faith is not strong. They are people of doubt. They are people of disbelief. And they fit into those categories of kuffar. Are they kafirs?
No.
No, alhamdulillah. Allahu Akbar. We can't call anybody that, right? Unless they profess that. Surah 76 and verse 1. Has there not come upon man a period of time when he was not a thing worth mentioning? This is such a powerful verse to me. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over and over and over again makes us all that. He says you were the best people of all. But then He reminds us and humbles us to say there was a time when you were not even worth mentioning. There was a time when we were not thought about, folks. But yet we think we're so important. But what does this verse say? There was a time when He was not worth mentioning. There are many other ayats on this subject. Ibn Jarir reported from Atta that Ibn Abbas said, seeing that you were dead and He gave you life means you did not exist beforehand. You were nothing until Allah created you. He will bring death to you and then bring you back to life during resurrection. Ibn Abbas then said this is similar to Allah's statement in Surah 40 and verse 11. They will say, O Lord, you have made us die twice and you have given us life twice. How many times, look how many references that I'm not finished yet. Allah is reminding us that we will be given life twice. He's reminding us of the day of resurrection. That we are going to be brought back out of the particles of dirt that we turn back to. We're going to have a new life. An eternal life.
Can I ask
In heaven or hell.
Can I ask you one little question? Only Muslim will be beautiful or everybody non-Muslim will be beautiful?
Well, you're not going to be too beautiful in hell. Because you're going to be up to here in sweat. And I've never seen anybody up to here in sweat that was very beautiful. So that's not going to be too beautiful. But if you're a person of the book and you get to paradise, you're going to absolutely be so beautiful that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that you can see inside the bones. You can see the marrow of the women of paradise. That's how beautiful. Now, that means we're going to have like X-ray vision. It's going to be a dimension that we can't understand in this life.
Women are still beautiful.
Yes.
In this earth.
Absolutely. The chief blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for men and women is life. And think about it, folks. Look at the depth of where this goes. Because without life, we cannot profit from the blessings of this world, and we cannot profit from the hereafter. We have to live in this world in order to earn blessings in the other life. So we say that, we talk about the value of life in Islam. And we say that to save one life is like saving all of mankind. And that's something like 8 billion people, folks. That's the value of life in Islam. And it ties into these beautiful verses. Death too is a blessing. For it is the door to perpetual life and eternal bliss or suffering. In a world where there will be no death. Remember that I told you that when we get to paradise, one of the first parties that we'll be invited to will be one where death is destroyed. We'll never grieve anymore. We'll never cry. We'll never lose anymore. What a day that will be. Yes, brother.
I heard somebody say, how could you deny the hereafter before you came to this world?
So, istawa in verse 29 literally means to stand upright, to climb, signifying to turn or pay attention to something. And in a wider sense, to make straight and firm decision which nothing can hinder. So, I'm trying to remember, there was something that came to me and I was trying to add it to this. It'll come to me later. Inshallah. So Surah 2 and verse 29. It is He who created for you all of that which is on the earth. Then He istawa ila the heaven and made them 7 heavens. and He is knowing of all things. So here we see the evidence of Allah's ability and Allah alone's ability. No one else has this ability. Can anyone in this room create a gnat? Can anyone in this room create anything?
No.
Only Allah can create. After Allah mentioned the proofs of His creating them and what they can witness in themselves as proof of that, He mentioned another proof that they can witness. That is the creation of the heavens and earth. Allah's knowledge encompasses all His creation. In Surah 67 and verse 14, should not He who is created know? See, that's why we say Allah is the all-knower, the all-seer, the all-hearer, the all-encompassing. We don't even like people that think they know it all. We don't like those people. What do we call those people? Astaghfirullah. I'm just teasing you. We call them arrogant people, right? Mason. So we're going to shift because I want to talk, and I know today is a lot of transition stuff, but it's important bits and pieces that will enhance what you've already learned and enhance future verses. So I know today is a lot of movement in comparison to the past classes, but just hang on to your seat. It's valuable stuff. In Surah 2:29 is explained in detail in Surah Al-Sajdah, Surah 41, verses 9 through 12, saying, do you indeed disbelieve in He who created the earth in 2 days and attribute to Him equals? That is the Lord of the worlds, and He placed on the earth firmly set mountains over its surface, and He blessed it, and determined therein its creatures' sustenance in 4 days without distinction, for the information of those who ask. Then He directed Himself to the heaven while it was smoke, and said to it and to the earth, come into being, willingly or by compulsion. They said, we have come willingly. There's a great lesson in this, because you see, folks, the sun, the moon, the earth, all the planets are Muslims in submission to Allah. The sun rises at the command of Allah. It's never disobedient. It never says, Allah, I'm not going to rise today. I don't feel like it. The moon never does that. All the planets are Muslims. Alhamdulillah. They said, we have come willingly. And that's what we need to say. We have come willingly. We submit willingly to you, Allah, without any doubt, without any question. Yes, brother.
Can you distinguish between the other verse that says 6 days? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
I'll ask you.
Okay, all right, thank you. And He completed them as 7 heavens within 2 days, and inspired in each heaven its command. Remember when we talked about how He inspired in each heaven its command when we did the miracles of the Quran? You remember that, folks? We went over it in detail. It took us about 3 weeks to cover that. And we adorned the nearest heaven with lamps and as protection. That is a determination of the exalted in might, the knowing. These ayat indicate that Allah started creation by creating the earth first. Then He made heaven into 7 heavens. This is how buildings usually start, with the lower floors first, and then the top floors, as the scholars of Tafseer reiterate. In Surah 79, verse 27 to 33. Are you more difficult to create, or is the heaven that He constructed? He raised its height and has perfected it. And here's another lesson, folks. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who does everything in perfection, builds and perfects. There's a lesson in this for us, because we're supposed to build our faith and perfect our faith. We're supposed to perfect our iman. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said he spent his whole life perfecting his salah. And this was a perfect man. This is very humbling, folks, when we begin to think that we are all that, and we get arrogant and puffed up, and we simply look and say how our very Creator kept perfecting His creation. And our very Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, spent his lifetime perfecting his prayer. I know sometimes I'm praying and I don't remember what I've done, and I start all over. It's night, He covers with darkness, and it's forenoon, He brings out with light. And the earth, after that, He spreads it out, and brought forth therefrom its water and its pasture. And the mountains He has fixed firmly, to be a provision and benefit for you and your cattle. So the earth was created before the heavens. We see here from this verse, right? So there was an order. Everything in the universe has been created for our benefit. This is what these verses mean. There is nothing in the universe from which man does not derive some benefit in one way or the other, either directly or indirectly. There are things which man uses physically as food or medicine. Other things are useful for him without his knowing it, even poisonous things. Chemotherapy. It's poison, right? We have any medical people here?
Yes, it is poison.
We have a doctor right here. It's actually poison. But there are many people that are here today because poison was put into their system and it kept them alive. So even there's benefit from poison. Venoms, bee stings. We know that antibiotics have stuff that actually destroy the good stuff in your intestinal tract, but they also make you well. Or dangerous things do us some good. The deathstalker scorpion, native to North Africa and the Middle East, is highly dangerous because of its venom, which is a neurotoxin powerful enough to kill a child or an elderly person, often by causing pulmonary edema.
What is pulmonary edema?
It's a drowning of the lungs. Your lungs fill up with water, it drowns you.
Which water? Water from your body?
Yes.
So is it like
It's
pneumonia?
a shutdown. Well, Dr. Hawk, it's not like pneumonia because it's a bacteria, right? But it's simply, pulmonary edema is just because your body shuts down, the lungs fill with fluid, and you die. You drown in your fluids.
There is a new virus, nowadays people are dying because the lungs are full with the water.
Right.
That virus is dangerous.
Yes, brother. I don't want to get way into this, but I just want you to sort of get the gist that there are these poisonous things. That's not the focus. The focus is on the power of Allah in the fact that there are poisonous things in the world that Allah has put here for a reason. Nothing was created in vain. And we're going to look at some of those examples. Recently, Megan Zhang, a materialist scientist at the University of Washington, and her research team showed that a certain compound found in the venom of the deathstalker scorpion could help in the treatment of brain cancer. In recent years, bee venom therapy has increased in popularity. It is now used in the treatment of many autoimmune diseases, including rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, scleroderma, and MS. Now, Sister Naran used to take care of a lady in North Carolina that had MS. And one of her treatments is she went into a den of bees, stood like this, and let the bees sting her. They covered her body and stung her. Yeah. So you see, the things that we as humans in our limited thinking, we judge them as bad. But there's always good in there's some good in every single thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. And later on, next week, we'll begin to look at the al-ghayb, the unseen, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala presented the unseen to Adam alayhi salam. It's amazing. So that'll be unfolding. And that's why I said this stuff that we're covering today will build upon the verses that we're moving into and build upon the verses that we're moving away from.
Honey is the one which healed a lot. Our Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
What is honey, folks?
Bees.
It's bee vomit. Comes out of it comes out of the rear end of the bee. Let me correct myself. But it has a healing for all things. If you ever get sunburned, rub honey on your face. Pure honey, not the processed one at the grocery store. You got to get local honey with the antibiotics that are specific to your area. There's all kinds of healing from what comes from the rear end of the bee. And this all is spelled out in the Holy Quran. But see, in our limited cognition, we will say, oh man, I can't take anything from the rear of a bee. We would deny ourselves the healing. Some people would say, I cannot take anything from a scorpion. And we would deny ourselves the healing of brain cancer. Even forbidden things have some good in them. Even when the Quran prohibited the use of alcohol and gambling, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, consider these things. In them there is some benefit, but the trial, the fitna from them is greater. So they're prohibited. Every creation has lessons of benefit for mankind. All without exception. And the creations that we don't know about, it's because of the unseen. It's because we just haven't learned about it yet. Man has yet to be able to produce something like wood. He cannot produce something like a tree. Remember we talked about that in the miracles of the Quran. We were covering that in the class. Allah created the universe to serve us and us to serve Allah. One cannot draw from this that everything created is legitimate for use. Because I have occasionally someone in my office that wants to convince me that marijuana was created for our use. Yeah, little ganja. They think that smoking was created by Allah. Anything that alters your mind, folks, is haram, prohibited.
In the Quran.
In the Quran, yes. Now, if they make a medication that takes care of pain from it, and it can benefit mankind, then we'll get the benefit out of it. But right now, if you're smoking daha, that's what they call it in South Africa, ganja, marijuana, Mary Jane, weed, pot, whatever you want to call it, you're damaging your lungs. You're not getting the beneficial stuff. The only reason people smoke dope is to get high. There's no other reason. No other reason, folks.
They become junkies.
So, I just want to make sure that nobody walks away from my class today and says, well, the imam said there's benefit in everything. I found mine in that little joint. So please, don't throw me under the bus, folks. I have clarified. Have I clarified?
Yes.
All right, just want to make
Everybody
sure.
come back hot next week.
So according to verse 29, the skies are 7 in number. Allah created the earth and then spread it out. He it is who created for you all that is on earth. Allah created the earth before heaven. And when He created the earth, smoke burst out of it. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, then He, istawa ilah, turned towards the heavens when it was smoke, and made them 7 heavens, meaning one above the other. While the 7 earths means one below the other. Yes, brother.
Brother, when you talk about 7 heavens and 7 atmospheres or skies, those are different things, right?
No, they're the same, brother. But actually, no, they're not. Because when we talk about the mesosphere, the stratosphere, and all of those, that's 7 heavens. But then when we get to paradise, we're not sure whether that's part of paradise or not. Because remember how last week I said, if one brother, I used Brother Eunice, he disappeared on me. But I used Brother Eunice and I said if he and I did all the same deeds, but I said one more subhanallah, the distance between he and I in paradise would be as from here to where we see the stars.